Okay, there we go.
Great. Okay. So now we're going to call roll. And Jason Herring is here. Chuck Hart.
Yes.
Linda Alexander. I've not seen Linda. Pat Nave.
Here.
Charlotte Bell is excused. Rock is going to be late. Alec Norman.
Here.
Jan Kane. Jan. I know I saw Jan.
Here,
Good.
I'm muted.
Dan Dixon. Dan. Did Dan get knocked off again? Well, Dan was here. I suspect she'll be back. And the last one was Craig Goldbarb.
Dan is
Here, I may have to leave and come back. I'm having a little computer. I think I need to reset it.
Okay. Great. We'll see you when you come back. And I know Dan's having some computer problems too, I think, but we have a quorum. So I'd also like to welcome members of the public. You'll have an opportunity to provide comments on each agenda item. And then if you have a comment on an item that is not on the agenda, you can provide your comments during the public comment portion at the end of the meeting. So the main agenda item tonight is an update from the developers of the proposed San Pedro Marketplace at Target. You will recall that 2 meetings ago, they presented their initial plans. This committee had a number of comments and concerns about those plans, which we shared with them. So they are back tonight to respond to our comments. We will not be taking any action tonight. Action on this item will probably be scheduled for consideration of our next regular meeting, which is Wednesday, November 10th. Tonight is just to gather comments and input. I want to thank the
Lost you. Yeah.
You
I
went
lost you
to
too.
Diana.
Your
Can't hear
audio
you,
went
Diana.
away.
Diana, you got her on mute. I can't hear you. Say something. I can't hear you.
You're not muted, but we're not hearing you.
Hey, Pat, this is Dan Dixon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm on the phone. The Zoom video webinar thing didn't work. It's
Oh.
stuck on preview, but I'm here.
Diana, we can't hear you.
I can't hear you either, Diana. Can you hear me? Nope. I can hear you because you're just down the hall, but I can't hear you on Zoom. Well, Dan can't
Very
hear you,
old
and
school,
Jason can't hear you.
Try
No,
muting and
can't hear me.
unmuting. Try muting and unmuting your machine.
He muted and unmuted once and it didn't work.
He said, Jason suggested you mute and unmute, see if that does it.
It looks like she's dialed in by phone, not by computer. Is that correct?
No, she's on computer.
It shows a phone. Oddly, it doesn't show a microphone on the computer, which is normal.
Jason says you show as if you're coming in on a phone and not on a computer.
Yeah, so something's a little messed up. She can also just dial in from a phone, audio only, and leave the video from her computer.
Did you hear that part, Diana?
Can she hear us? Because her mouth is moving, but there's no sound.
Diana, can you hear all of us? Diana,
Diana, wave if you can hear us.
She's dropped out of the call now.
I don't know what she did. You're the host now, though.
Yeah, but her video's still showing, but she dropped out. Yeah. I think she's gonna have to restart.
You might have to Diana. Diana.
Or she's okay. Have
Jason,
her call in. Just have her call in on a phone on the audio line. And
okay, hold on just a minute. Jason suggests you call in by phone.
I'm in Jason host. I'm gonna
restart?
Come back on now that he's the host.
Okay,
She says now that you're the host, she's gonna boot, do something, I don't know.
all right, so I don't know, to continue without her or pause?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I guess the target folks are gonna come back in and answer our prepared questions. You mentioned we were not gonna take any actions today, so
Right.
if the representatives of Target are present, we can have them take the helm, and if they have anything to share, or just talk to our questions, concerns.
Yep.
Yeah, Jason, thank you very much. This is Mark from DLR Group. I did the presentation last time. Alex Catala, who's our project manager on the job with DLR Group, the architects here as well. Chris Shane, who's the developer with Griffin Capital. Noah Tazinski is our environmental consultant, because there are a few environmental questions that came up. And I believe Carrie is with Starbucks as well. And then we were to have a representative from Target as well, but I don't believe they've shown up on the call. But we can proceed if Alex, if you want to pull up the drawings. So what
Sure,
we've done is there was a comment in the notes back to us from our last meeting. And so we've prepared drawings and notes response back to that, and we can walk you through all that.
Mark is saying that the host disabled participant screen sharing, so I need.
Let's see, Alex. Alex is set as a co-host.
The other Alex.
Oh, there's two Alexes.
Nope, I can hear you because you're just down the hall, but what?
Alex, do you have the ability to share now?
He's looking. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Hopefully, I'm sharing the correct.
all right.
You can all see the slideshow, right?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Jason?
Yep.
Diana asks if you can look in the attendees list and then make her
Make me the host again.
the host again, but I don't see her. Oh, there she is. She is in the attendees list.
So like I said, what we've done is gone through the notes from our last meeting and either responded with our consultants or with some drawings. So I think the primary concern last time we met was the location. And the desire was to move it to the hard corner. This is a drawing showing a considerable amount of infrastructure work, storm drainage and ground detention basins that are currently in that southeast corner of the lot. So, we're avoiding all that work that is there now. So hence the location of the building. And I also, as part of that, Alex, if you would go to the next sheet. So there are a couple of other items as well that relate to the location. There is a fair amount of methane venting that's occurring on the site. So all these dots on the plan on the left-hand side show methane vents that are currently on site. We are going to be moving 2 of those for this project, but they're also in the southeast corner. And then as part of a structured deal with the LA County Sanitation District, there is a sanitation tunnel that's under the site. And as part of that negotiation with them, it was agreed upon that the gray area where we have our building place is where LA Sanitation agreed to a building over the existing tunnel. So that sort of addresses, I think there were concerns about moving it to the southeast corner of the site. We're gonna keep it on the southwest corner going forward. Next, I think also kind of related to that, this is very typical from a retailing perspective, really showing where the primary parking is for Target. from their front door for their customers. So this really shows, obviously, the location of the building, the proposed location of building puts it outside of their 300-foot kind of critical zone for their customer parking. So it actually works perfectly, doesn't impact their parking, doesn't impact their customer and the customer journey to their front door as well. So this is important to target. Next. There was a concern from lot 1, which is the neighbor directly to the west of us in terms of the height of the building, location of the building. So this is a site section sort of looking from the existing residence to the building over the 8-foot screen wall that's there. So, the intent is that you will not be able to see the building at all from the backyard of those homes that are there. There's also existing trees and landscaping along that westerly property line that also screen out. So you're looking sort of a section right through the building. You're seeing the parapet. So you'll see, if you do see any, you'll see just the top section of the building and you won't see any rooftop equipment. All of that is screened from the public view, from the parking lot, from Capitol Drive, from the entry at Target, and from the residential behind. And then noise and air quality. So there were some concerns over the noise. So what we've done is highlighted, and I can actually see if I can annotate this better. Is that you can see the location of the speaker box for Starbucks. This is located on the south side of the building. It faces Capitol Drive. It does not face any of the residential. So that order point and any noise from that speaker box is not going to travel to the residential. And we did a noise study for the project. And Alex, was that shared with Dana prior to this meeting?
Yes, it was.
So none of those, following the city's criteria, where we have less than significant impacts for noise and air quality, and we're significantly below the threshold for any type of impact.
And the last one is related to the queuing, Mark.
Oh, right. So for the queuing, we have more than ample queuing, both within the drive-through and on site, that it will not impact Capitol or Gaffey and create any additional traffic or any other nuisances on those streets.
These are trash trucks, when they empty those trash bins, are those below the threshold for noise as well?
In terms of the overall project, yes. So the noise, the traffic were all studied as per the city's requirements. Trash trucks are loud, but they're not every day. They're not 12 hours a day. So they're part of the normal operation of the project.
Well, I mean, they come here in the morning, pick up trash, right? And you've got a couple of trash bins. I notice your trash bins are right behind the houses and right along Capitol Drive where they can be seen.
So we did relocate the trash enclosure. We moved it approximately 30 feet further away, further to the east, away from the residences. It is also a fully enclosed trash enclosure. So the doors don't face Capitol, they face away from Capitol. So any concerns over loitering or homeless getting into the trash, those trash will be locked and accessed only by the tenants. So this is just kind of showing the circulation, primary circulation through the project. So no changes to existing circulation. Next. So this is about the 25 feet. So, we moved it further away. So you got 3 stalls. So you're 20, 27, 47, 57 feet away to the edge of the trash. So we did move it away. And we're going to provide additional landscaping between the trash enclosure, the end of the parking, and the wall with the residential. Next. So there were some questions and with regards to the landscaping. We do meet the city's requirements for MWELO and low water usage plants. We are matching more to the existing shopping center plant palette to be consistent, but it meets all the standards for the state for water usage. And we are taking out, I think we're taking out 9 trees and we're planting 15 new trees, plus landscaping along the entire southern edge along the drive-through. And as I said, around the trash enclosure. This trash enclosure is in the wrong spot on the landscape plan, but it will be reflected, will match our plans. But the planter right there along the screen wall in that southwest corner will be landscaped. And we're adding trees. There was concern sort of over the lighting. So all the existing lighting is shielded, and we meet the requirements for current lighting. Any new lighting will be shielded so that it doesn't affect the adjacent property owner at all. And we'll need to make sure, and we will make sure that there's sufficient lighting in the areas around the building to prevent any loitering. And then at the end of the day, you know, when those tenants are done and locked up, you know, they're moving their furniture inside so that no one can be using those patios. There was a question with regards to sort of what we're doing from a green build. So we are following the Cal Green standards for the state of California. So we're meeting those requirements. We are providing locations for future PV panels on the roof. And there is a discussion right now with Starbucks to actually provide PV panels on the trellis that's out in front of their building. And then we are looking at just at meeting the state's requirements for future EV parking in the parking lot. And this is, we did have quite an extensive conversation with Target. I'm not sure if you can make John Dietrich a participant or a host. If from Target. So
You can make him a panelist would be the thing.
a
you wanna do.
panelist. He said he was on the call, but
Someone's gonna have to make me a co-host or host in order for me to do anything.
I was raising my hand because I wanted to ask some questions about the plantings.
Diana, you're a host.
Okay, let's let them finish, Craig, and then we'll go back and ask questions if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thanks.
trying to see if John Dietrich. So there are cameras at the store. There is patrol every hour, and the parking lot gets swept after business hours. My understanding is that it's not a set time to sweep, but they try to do mix it up a little bit so that they do discourage people to move off the site. There is a large portion of the project that has been repaired due to some new water service connections. So I'm not sure if that's specific to this area, if there's other specific trees that want to be replaced. And then the runoff on the site is not Target's issue. They did survey on the water, they ran the landscape, they looked for water runoff, and it's not coming from the Target site. As it relates to being in the gutter, that's a city of San Pedro maintenance in terms of street sweeping and making sure, but that water is not coming off the Target site. And then there was a question with regards to the storm drain. So the storm drain and the water are two different issues. So we're meeting to our runoff as it relates to the construction of the new building. and then the seepage is from something else.
Mark, John Dietrich is on if you.
I'm sorry,
I can
what?
speak. John Dietrich from Target is now a panelist. I can speak as necessary.
Would you like to add anything, John, to sort of the target security and what's been done?
I would be happy to. Mark, thank you. Neighborhood commissioners, thank you for the opportunity here. In regard to Target, we have been here since 2008, and most all of you do know that. We are very interested in maintaining and keeping Target a strong, commercial, clean retail facility in the neighborhood. In terms of, to add a little bit more to what Mark has said on security, Target does have security cameras on all sides of the store, so those are on. We have alarms on the building if there's any breach. We have, in terms of cleanliness, we sweep this lot 7 days a week, 7 evenings a week. And during that sweeping, it's both mechanical and hand porters who they walk the entire site to pick up the amount of trash and or paper that is out there. This site has sweeping 7 days a week. A typical target is 3 to 4. We have more than double the number of trash cans that get emptied every day throughout the site. Our store director has been at this site for several years. He's very aware of the scrutiny that the city and neighborhood of San Pedro place on businesses. So we have stepped up our game in order to maintain this site in one of the cleanest, most trash-free sites we have in the entire Los Angeles area. One of the elements, and then in terms of stormwater, the entire property drains to the catch basins. It was designed to drain to the catch basins. It drains into an underground retention water quality system before it exits out to the storm basins out there along Gaffey. The sidewalk and boulevard trees are city property. We have been told by the city that we are not to take care of those. That is a city concern. And we have been doing the best we can to address any and all water that is within the target site. The water that seeps comes from the city boulevards and from the neighborhood area that fills the gutters. That is a city issue. We will work with the appropriate personnel, but that is a city issue to address.
Question? Hello?
But as soon as they're finished, Chuck, we'll go to questions. Are we?
And then Alex, next.
Yeah, Mark, the next set of slides are just updated drawings from our recent metal package.
Okay. So Dana, so these are just the updated drawings showing for plans and elevations that haven't changed. Really, it's about the site plan. So happy to take questions.
Yeah, so now we'll take questions and comments, and I'll start with Craig and then go to Chuck.
Okay, my concern was the plantings along the, I guess that'd be the south side. The water level is really low there, and it tends to kill most of the plants that are out of the street. So the trees out there don't last; they seem to rot away. So you're going to be planting right adjacent to that. So I'm wondering, you know, if they're drought-resistant plants, how they're going to do in that plantings and trees, how they're going to do in that environment.
Because of the high water table.
Yes, that's brackish water. It's from what my understanding, not.
I mean, I'm not concerned about the plantings, I'm not concerned about the ground cover shrubs, right? Maybe some concern over the trees. In terms of meeting the low water standards, we meet those requirements. We can have our landscape architect look at whether or not how they would deal with brackish water if roots get that deep. Happy to look at that.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Chuck?
Thank you. We've all witnessed water seepage from the target area over the sidewalks through the planters along the sidewalk. You said you've taken care of that problem?
Target has addressed the water that falls on our landscape areas and on the parking lot surface areas. Water that would fall within the landscape setback areas does drain to the sidewalk because we are elevated up above the sidewalk. But that is a very small portion of water that would be coming off of the target site. We have worked very hard to collect any and all water on the hard surface that runs through a water quality system, as necessary for required regulatory permits.
And one additional comment, back in the 50s, when I was coaching Little League down there on that field where Target now stands, there was a DeCarlo's Bakery. And at that time, there was a spring discovered on that property. I don't know if that's, if that's been closed, blocked off, not, but I'm just letting you know, at one time there was a spring discovered under that property, and you just don't stop water from a spring. I just want to make sure you knew about that.
Do you have a specific location where that was, sir?
It was near their loading dock, where trucks loaded to the backside of the bakery, which would be probably about where the corner of your target, the southwest corner of your target building. It was in that area.
Thank you.
It always flooded their loading dock. There was always 2 feet of water in the loading dock.
Next hand is Gwen Henry. Oops. Gwen?
There, can you hear me? I just got the
Yes.
icon. I just got the icon. Thank you. In regards to the upkeep and of the Target parking lot, I have to beg to differ with Mr. Dietrich about the maintenance of that parking lot. Every time I go by, I am completely appalled at the trash that's there. I truly would ask the management and the corporation to attend to this considerably more than what seems to be diametrically opposed to what I witness regularly. Anyway, with that, the site where you currently have the containers and they're partitioned off with barriers, those barriers have kind of a screening material, but you can see behind it. And unfortunately, what I have seen through the screen material is a very badly kept construction area. Normally, workers keep their materials organized, but the last time I went there, the trash heap that was behind those barriers was shocking. And when we have wind picking up, there were a lot of materials that looked like that they could be picked up by the wind, and we had a wind event recently. They can carry to the environment around Target. And I've got to honestly say that since those barriers have been up, I've seen more trash and garbage in the easement areas, in the bushes, as well as across the street. Now it is debatable on whether it's other factors that are involved, but when you go up and down the Gaffey corridor and that green space, there seems to be a concentration right there at Target. So I would ask that people attend to the maintenance behind those barriers because there's a serious problem.
Thank you, Gwen.
If
I
I
will
may,
actually-
if
I
I
like-
may,
Well, let
may
me-
I respond?
John, I'm going to make a comment first and then let you respond if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you.
Because it's all on the same topic, which is the biggest problem that I have seen is actually on the slopes on the outer part of the property as it
Yeah.
slopes down. Those slopes just seem to be filled with trash a lot. And I cannot believe that they're being cleaned on a regular day. So I would want to make sure that your cleaning is including that because that's the most visible part of the property. And it's also the part where we see the most trash. Now I'll let you respond.
Okay, thank you. If I'm here to hear your concerns, and I have been trying to address the issues on the site. The site is under remodel now, so it is probably much more of a challenge with the barriers, with the storage containers, with the contractors that are coming in and out, driving a lot more traffic than our typical guest when the store is not under remodel. The remodel should be turning over within the next couple of weeks, and those containers will be moved out of there so that the site will be open, clean, and ready to go, probably second week of November. So I apologize, remodels are messy, and I'm trusting you've seen more trash because of that. If there is accumulation between the curb line or between our internal curb line and the back of sidewalk, I will specifically ask our store director and our property management technician and the vendor who is responsible for cleaning that has been brought up and it's been an issue. And if it's not been addressed, I'm going to make sure they do address it. So thank you for that comment.
Thank you.
Diana,
Melanie?
Diana, could I speak about the halophyte, the plantings
You
afterwards?
can come back for another comment later, Gwen. Right now it's Melanie's turn.
Yes, thank you.
Diana?
Dan?
Hello? May
Hi, Dan.
I say something? May I ask a question before Melanie, please? It is relevant.
It's relevant. All right, Dan.
If Melanie doesn't mind.
No problem.
Let us return to the subject of this new building. We have plenty to talk to Target about cleanliness and godliness and everything else, but that's a separate meeting. Mark, I want to ask you, the westernmost piece of the development, which was the trash yard, which has now been moved, is still there. What do you know what that will be used for?
So there's parking. So there's parking. There's 3 parking stalls. So we have parking up against the west property line, which is existing. And then we have 3 parking stalls, and then we have the trash enclosure. So go back to the site plan, not the landscape plan, Alex, because the trash enclosures.
I think he's on it now.
Yeah.
Okay,
My
so
cursor that there's the trash enclosure. There's the parking, here's the block wall property line.
okay, so I'm not looking where the 3 parking stalls are. I couldn't quite make it out, but just below that is a square area that I thought appeared to be enclosed within a wall, and I was wondering what that was. My point is, the farther away any of this can be moved from the neighboring homes probably is an advantage for the neighbors as well as you folks from a public relations standpoint. There you see on the, I can't do anything with it, but the far southwest corner I can't make out what that is below the 3 parking stalls.
Landscape, that's landscape. So that
It's
between,
landscape. Okay,
so there's a 16-foot
Okay.
landscape buffer that's from the back of the parking and back of the trash to the property line.
good, good.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. So it's the building portion, the block wall portion has moved east essentially.
Correct, correct. So
Good.
we
Thank
moved
you.
it approximately 30 feet, 30 or 40 feet to the east from its previous location.
Understood. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Melanie LeBruck.
Hi. So again, I am house number 1 on the property that a lot of this is going to have activity behind. And I appreciate the fact that the new plans have the trash receptacle moved 93 feet from the closest home instead of 25 feet from the wall. This was a nice gesture to make, but unfortunately it's still too close. Because when you measured 25 feet originally on the plans was from the wall, this is from the house that you measured the 93 feet. So it's more like from the house itself, 30 feet, not from the wall. You say that Target's existing security will take care of the security for the new additional business. They do not have the ability to cover their own issues at the store. They've had cars stolen, broken into, windows shattered, large amounts of theft internally. Their security is loss prevention. They do not patrol outside. Therefore, internal security. Their security team has told many customers that they do not have cameras that cover the whole parking lot, and consider where your car was parked depends on if there's video available. It's pertinent that the new businesses have their own security. You address the lighting in the outdoor dining area. The good high illuminating lighting is a good deterrent. Unfortunately, I don't agree. As we have seen in other businesses, fixed tables and chairs lead to transient attraction for beds to linger and to stay. The hours you have posted for Hamburger Habit is closing at 11 p.m. This is a concern because you will have lingerers and employees staying until all is cleaned up to close. They will have activity until possibly 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. in the back of the wall. You say noise is minimal on your report, but living here, the way sound carries is a problem. You stated in the report that the sidewalk on Capitol was fixed. Have you looked at the sidewalk? We now have a skateboard ramp or the beginnings of a ski slope. Not an adequate fix for a sidewalk, especially under ADA compliance guidelines. You state that the runoff comes from the community, not Target parcel. Unfortunately, according to City Supervisor for Street Services, he stated the clogging on the Capitol water drainage issue is Target's fault. It's a defect in the construction of the Target store. He stated that they have approached Target about share costing the fix and Target declined. Target has been bad about upkeep of the trash, the carts floating all over in the parking lot that stay for weeks, the landscape is overgrown into the streets, and the beds are constantly full of trash. Yes, it's because the customers, but Target has an obligation to clean up their property. There is trash constantly blowing into the streets from our overflowed trash cans. This causes the drainage issue to be worse because trash clogs the storm drains. This brings a concern about more trash issues will come with the Starbucks and Hamburger Habit. What guarantee do we have that the property management of new businesses will take pride in surrounding area being cleaned up regularly? Target and/or developers need to talk to the adjacent neighbors that share the wall with their property if they are not willing to move this project to the Gaffney Capel side of the lot. This is not the community in the community plan. And there are also concerns about the park being so close. The park is very heavily used, and we ask you again to reconsider this location.
Okay, next person would be, Ted Mann.
Hello. Hi, Ted Mann here. I spoke last time. At that point in time, my chief concerns were traffic increase, noise increase, pollution increase, and human activity increase. All those appear to significantly impact the use and quiet enjoyment of my home the neighborhood and really directly those first 6 to 8 homes along Berrywood. Obviously, the other end of Berrywood will have minimum effect from this project. But the traffic and potentially the pollution effects can extend much farther than the immediate noise. Couple of things. I do have bad news for Mr. Diedrich. Unless he has personally been on the property to observe the conditions and the ongoing work, I would say that he has been the subject of a misinformation campaign. We have both photographs and video on a pretty recurring basis of the deplorable conditions in the parking lot. So I don't really know what to think of that. It's a mess. The trash isn't picked up. The park isn't swept. Parking lot isn't swept. These are ongoing concerns. The security is atrocious. We've had ongoing problems. It's been better because we've had less vagrancy lately, but not through anything that's obviously done by Target. Unfortunately, the lighting is not a deterrent to anything that occurs along that back wall in terms of cars in either of those first 2 parking columns. It can be a disaster. We've got the photographs to establish that as well. It's been a serious ongoing problem. The lighting isn't going to deter vagrancy. The lights are on all night in the Target parking lot, or they're actuated when there's motion. I don't know how it works, but there's never been any observable linkage between the lighting and the amount of vagrancy and other things like that. What we're concerned about back there, particularly behind the wall, is recreation of what happens up at the burger place at the top of Capitol. I would invite the developers to go up there and survey that on a Friday and Saturday night for a couple of weekends, so they'll understand what the source of concern is. A lot of people congregating, a lot of young people congregating, and not infrequently violence breaking out. To say that there's no noise impact from having 100 people in the parking lot with their car radios on, partying, having fun, doing all the rest, is to willfully try obscure the effects of that. In looking through the reports that support this, although I am a former litigator and I'm used to expert witnesses and I'm used to expert style reports and familiar with how they're used, I only had a little less than 2 hours to even begin to look over those things. I saw a lot of assumptions. I saw a lot of unsupported factual assertions from my standpoint. For instance, there's talk about the noise from the speaker, 47 decibel outside window noise. Well, their own report, 2 reports down, says that the ambient noise is between 60 and 67 decibels. So I don't know where 47 comes from. That sounds like wishful thinking to me. If you had 15 decibels to 67, now you're 82. If you look at the chart for what 82 represents in terms of an impact, now we're starting to talk an impact. But I see these kinds of patterns repeated over and over in the short amount of time I've had to review these reports. Certainly I will dig into them, and I'm sure I will have more to say to all concerned about it as we proceed further with this. I would again implore the developers and Target to put it on the corner where it belongs at Gaffey and Capitol. If you do a quick cut and paste of the building site from the corner where it's currently sited southwest, if you put it on the southeast corner, it doesn't appear to have any thing to do with the drainage diagram that is showed on the main reports. It does not seem to impact that. Likewise with the this DWP or this tunnel easement, if you take that project and drop it at the Gaffey corner, it looks like it'll have the same or less impact with that tunnel. What Target is concerned about here is that their preferred parking will be impacted if we put it at the corner of Gaffey, but that's simply placing Target's wants over the neighbor's needs. That's all I've got for now. Thank you, and I really hope that you reconsider.
Pat Nave. Pat, did you have your hand up to
Oh,
speak?
that's a no.
Yeah, I do. I do have my hand up. Hello.
You're echoing.
For some reason I am.
Bad.
Can you hear me?
Did you mute yourself again?
Hello?
I can hear you.
There's some more questions about the trash. I have never in my life seen a trash enclosure that was pretty. They're usually chain link and with some slats in them and so on. The people dump their trash in it with cardboard boxes and stick up so you can see them from across the street at the park and along Capitol Drive as people are coming and going home. And listen, you kind of glossed over, I'll be frank, you kind of glossed over the noise thing. Those trash trucks come in the morning with the forks, the front lift forks. They'll open the gates and they'll lift the trash bins up and over, and a lot of clanging, a lot of noise, and then set them down. It's going to be a nightmare. And those trash trucks will be there probably almost every morning. I'd be surprised if they're less than that for it. And then on top of it, you've got a food operation. So you're going to have flies galore in those trash bins. You know, I think you need to do a lot of work and a lot of thinking on where they're located and how you're going to maintain them. I mean, you've done a fairly good job of shielding them from view from your customers, but not from the neighbors and not from the people on the street. That's one question or one statement I wanted to make, but I have some questions on parking. I recall reading somewhere that you have a certain number of spaces that you're required to have and that you were going to use them on a shared basis with Target. Is that correct? Hello?
Alex? Yeah, that's correct.
How many spaces are you going to have to share with Target?
I don't know the number off the top of my head. I can speak with Alex.
The reason I raise it is because in my former career, I did some.
Zoom in, Alex.
I did some. You know, we typically when you have you need parking for a spot and you can't provide it on your own property. You need some kind of a tie-in with another lot that runs with your own property. So I'm wondering how Target's going to deal with that. Are they going to sell you the additional lots? What if Target goes away, sells to a developer that wants to develop housing or something else there? What are you going to do to preserve your parking?
So we're currently overparked by the city standard. So there's no concern that there isn't sufficient parking, particularly in this area of the site. You know, as it relates to any OEA or CC&R agreements between Target and the developer, that is part of the plan in terms of access, maintaining access, not disrupting Target's operations, not disrupting the pad operations. So that's a pretty standard procedure for these types of developments.
The shared parking will also allow Target to have ability to park, you know, in front of the shops, restaurants, you know, up towards Target. They are private agreements, but the agreement that Target will have with developer will identify access to the public way. It will identify parking for that building and structure. And this is a recorded document. It runs for a minimum of 60 years, and parking and easement documents continue on once these option agreements and OEA and REA agreements expire after 60 years. They will always have parking. They will always have access, regardless if Target is the long-term owner of this property or not.
What does OEA and REA stand for?
Operation and easement agreements and reciprocal easement agreements. Those are the private governing documents that typically control private development, shopping centers, etc.
Okay, and the parking required numbers are too small for me to read on the screen of my laptop. What parking are you going to need that's not going to be on your lot?
The code requirements here are in the enterprise zone. It's 2 stalls per 1,000 square feet for both the Target and for the restaurant building. We are providing probably closer to 4 to 4.2 per 1,000. So we are significantly over city code because we don't think that city code is enough. So we are putting enough parking in there to make sure that both Target and the developers' restaurant pads have sufficient parking.
So 4.2 per 1,000 feet, so about, and you're at about 4,500 feet.
Correct. So we only need
So by code,
9.
yeah, we only require 9. So there's 271 spaces required by code, and there are 511 spaces with the new plan, plus 8-car stacking.
So your REA is going to cover, or OEA is going to cover 271 stalls?
No,
in the
no,
parking lot?
No.
no. By code, we are only required to provide 9 stalls for the building. By code. I don't know, John, what your agreement is with Griffin County in terms of how many stalls you're providing for them.
You know, it's close to the 4 per 1,000, you know, so if it's 4,500 square feet, it's going to be
16 or
Yeah.
17, 18.
you know,
What is that number two? What does that number 271 mean?
That's the required parking stalls per code,
For both, for Target and the
Target
pad.
and the new pad.
Oh, okay. Seemed kind of high to me for a burger place. Thank you.
Lori Jacobs. Lori Jacobs.
Thank you for unmuting me. Thank you for the presentation. I live a few blocks from this location. I'm all for another yummy burger place. I'd prefer a kosher style deli, but I'll take a burger place. But I really do object to the location. It makes no sense. This should be placed at the corner of Gaffey and Capitol. That is not a heavily used section of the parking lot for Target. And I have to agree with what some other people said earlier. I don't want to be repetitive, but there is not regular trash cleanup at Target. I do enjoy shopping at Target, not so much during the remodel. So I want that to be done. But I do not feel that Target management has been responsible enough. And this is long before the remodel. This has nothing to do with that situation. There is not regular trash pickup. So if it isn't being taken care of now, and Target representatives saying it is, I really have concerns with what's going to happen with the future. But this is unconscionable to do this to the residents who lived there long before that property was developed, to put a restaurant so close in a Starbucks or whatever. I'm all for capitalism, but that is really disruptive to the quality of life of the people who live there. And I will continue to object to this until that location is moved. Thank you for letting me speak.
Okay, Gwen Henry.
I mirror Lori's concerns, but with the plantings, and Craig mentioning that there's a salt content to the water table there. The plantings that currently exist in the Target area look like they're dead and dying. The choice of plants, it could be that the irrigation has been lowered due to water costs, but it also could be due to the saline content of the soil, which means that the choice of plants, you should go to ones that are halophytes, which are they are salt tolerant plants. And with that, the plantings that were in the photographs did not look like they were those type of plants. Once the plantings are in, if they die, is anyone responsible for replanting? And I would and have the landscape people actually tested the soil and found out the actual pH, salt content, and such forth of that location. But once again, if the plants die, will anybody be responsible for replacing them? Because they're no good without a barrier.
Thank you, Gwen. Want to respond? Mark, Alec?
As I said earlier, we will get with our landscape architect. I'm not aware of a tests that's been done on the soils. But in terms of reviewing for plans for brackish water to deal with that, we can review that. More than happy to have that conversation with our landscape architect.
Okay.
In regards to the drought tolerance of them, what will the irrigation be? We are undergoing a current restriction on water, and it likely will be worse. What is being considered with that in mind?
The planting palette as proposed meets all the city and state requirements for low water usage plants. We are meeting the requirements.
And if they die?
The brackish water issue is a different issue than landscape water. So we will address that issue as well.
And if they die, is anyone responsible for replacing them for sound buffers and visual buffers?
Without looking at all of the conditions of approval, I can say if plants die on the target parcel, they will be replaced.
Great, I don't see anyone else that hasn't already spoken that has their hands up. I have a very simple question, and that has to do with the number of seats indoor and outdoors for each of the two Starbucks and the Habit.
Just in terms of the number of seats, Alex, do we have the number of seats for Starbucks and Habit?
Yes, we have a number of occupants. Right now, the occupant load for the Starbucks is 41 occupants and 44 for the Habit, based on the design that they have.
So there is indoor seating at the Starbucks. It's not just a drive-through.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and then what about the outdoor seating?
I think there's either 9 or 12 outdoor seats, maybe slightly more than that.
For each one?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. And then I wanted to comment also on the security, because it seemed to me that on your slide, you had talked about a security guard during the daytime, but the biggest problems in terms of the community is there needs to be a security guard there at night as well. And I didn't see that addressed. What's the plan for security at night?
For Target, we have the motion light detectors. We have cameras that do pan the parking lot in and around the building. And we have the maintenance for this parking lot sweeping and pickup.
Is somebody monitoring those cameras at nighttime to see if there's something going on? I mean, it's nice to have it after the fact, but how do you know what's happening real time?
The cameras are not monitored unless there is a breach of the building.
Mhm. Well, I'll just tell you, I think the security is a concern, particularly because of the kinds of things we've seen at other locations within San Pedro. Is there anybody else that wanted to ask a question or make a comment?
I did have a final question.
Yeah, I've got my hand up.
Oh my God.
Was that Chuck?
No,
No, who said they had their hand up?
Pat,
Pat. I don't see it, but Pat, go ahead.
this I guess is probably for John Dietrich. Mr. Dietrich, you probably have heard that and know that there's a lot of sentiment that was raised about having this building located over at the south east corner. Can you kind of enlighten us as to whether it was ever considered, and if so, why it was rejected?
Be happy to. In terms of the building location, first and foremost, Target needs to have available parking and site visibility to Gaffey. We are, that is premier parking. I think there was a graphic that was in the presentation that talks about 300-foot radius. That's typically where people will walk from when they park. in terms of when it's crowded, we want to have enough overflow parking. In terms of placing the building in the south, in the corner of Gaffey and Capitol, we did not consider that because that would impact the parking. It would shorten the parking field for both resident or for both businesses, and that becomes a challenge. So we will not consider the building being relocated to that corner.
It would certainly be much better received by the community if you were. So I'll just say that.
Understood.
I'm thinking of the CPIO findings that we dealt with on the 7-Eleven building where the city refused to consider the baseball diamond, the thing with the
Home plate.
7-Eleven back home plate, yeah, designed with the building back and the corner away from the street. And you're saying kind of, I guess it was the visibility of the Target store that was more concerned with you rather than Habit and Starbucks being closer to the street, which seemed to be what the CPIO would indicate.
Any comment on that?
Not for me.
Okay. Okay, Melanie, were you the one that said you had one last comment?
That was Gwen.
That was Gwen. Gwen.
I have one last comment.
Melanie, let Melanie. go.
Other people have spoken like 5 times. I've been having my hand up for about 5 minutes now. Can I?
I'm sorry, Craig, I didn't see your hand. That's why I was just asking.
I've been waving in the
Now,
yellow
I'm
hands.
sorry.
up. Okay.
Craig, I will call on you and I will call on Vic and I will call on Jason because I now see hands that for some reason I was not seeing. So
I'll wait.
Craig, followed by Vic.
Okay, it's more towards Target since we have John Dietrich here, concerning that we were told that you guys are putting up charging stations. Where are you going to put up those charging stations and how are you going to charge for those charging stations? I've noticed in Torrance, they're putting up their charging stations in their new locations and not charging for them. If you go over to the Aldi's and Chick-fil-A and other places. So I know you have a policy to be putting those in. And when we asked, what are you doing?
In terms of the electrical vehicle charging stations, Target has been active in working with 3 different companies, Electrify America, ChargePoint, and Tesla, to put in charging stations at a number of different targets throughout the country. We have well over 100 sites that have charging stations in them today. In terms of this site, San Pedro, an electric charging station is not planned at this time in terms of one going in. In terms of our development phasing, we make sure Target has enough parking first. We look at additional ways to utilize our real estate and bring goods and services and amenities to our property and for the neighborhood. I do not anticipate EV charging stations will come in at this location because it will not be within the front parking field for the same reason the building being proposed here is not at the corner. They may go, up by the loading dock if they ever come in, but there is no plans to date for EV chargers at this site.
Okay, Vic Christensen.
Going back to Diana's question about the nighttime security, I heard it had mentioned that Target has cameras not monitored, which in my opinion is not a lot of help, but I didn't hear anything about security nighttime in particular around what is being proposed with Starbucks and Habit. Because cameras on the building, on the Target building, are not going to be able to see much, if at all, anything over at the new proposed location, especially at night and especially on the Capitol far side. So did I miss the discussion about of the new buildings, or was it just ignored?
Does somebody like to respond to that? Mark?
I mean, as it relates to, I mean, there are no plans right now to put security cameras on the new building. I'm sure Target, sure Starbucks and Habit have internal cameras for their own uses inside the building, but I'm not aware of a requirement to put security cameras outside the building.
Mark, we have Carrie from Starbucks on the line. Maybe she knows a little bit more about security on their stores.
Yes, hi, this is Carrie Hellinga. I'm the store development manager for Starbucks. And we definitely have cameras inside. We typically do have cameras outside because partner safety and customer safety is always a concern for us. So I don't know exactly where the cameras will be placed on the outside, and I can't speak for Habit as to whether they have cameras as well, but we do work with local law enforcement and with our own security personnel to determine the best locations to, provide visibility, surrounding the building.
But will that only be cameras that are not monitored, or will they be monitored in real time, and will there be live security guards patrolling the area at the same time?
They are typically not monitored full time. I don't believe. I'm not actually I'm not an expert, subject matter expert on that. So I'll have to look into that. And then no, we don't typically have security guards standing out in front of the building. That's something that again, we would have to look into in partnership with Target and Habit to see if one, there's a need, and two, how often that would look like, having somebody drive by and patrol the area. It's a little difficult for me to say what may be needed before we're there. I don't have any experience with this location.
I would recommend you look into that, in particular after discussing it with the neighbors who are bordering that area.
Noted. Thank you.
I would also note that our LAPD lead officer for the area, when we were dealing with the 7-Eleven across the street, which looks like the remodel may not happen after all, but he had requested to see if we could get security cameras that were facing onto Capitol Drive, because they have so much things that happen and people getting away on Capitol Drive. It would be very helpful to have outdoor security cameras facing Capitol Drive. Jason Herring.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you for the presentation. I was happy to see that you're considering solar voltaics on the canopies around the building. So that's a very positive thing. But on the negative side, the last time we heard about this project, the developers had mentioned that they weren't looking at putting in EV charging themselves because Target was going to have them. So to hear that that's not scheduled for this lot is pretty disappointing. We've got a bit of a dearth of charging stations in San Pedro, and it would be certainly an asset to that area, since there are none very close to there, to have charging stations there. I'll echo what everyone else has pretty much said. The right spot for this building is the southwest corner, and you're probably not going to ever hear the end of that because people are going to be upset about that. It goes against urban planning design guides. It should be on the main thoroughfare up against it, and it's not going to be there. I've been in plenty of these big box stores that have children's sites scattered around them, and they've been on the corner. They have not had, there's not issues with finding the Target store. It's a very big, massive store. Everyone knows it's there. You have no competition. So if for some reason someone has to walk an extra aisle or two parking, they're not going to say, oh, I refuse to go to the store. I'm going to go to, you know, the next store down the street. Walmart's around the corner. Well, it's not, right? There's not a lot of competition, right? So you've got a bit of a captive audience for your type of merchandise. So anyways, I really hope you take some time, think about it, and reconsider putting the building on the southwest corner for the good of the community and the good of the urban planning, and, you know, a much more happier reception by your fellow citizens here.
Okay, Gwen, can you, a quick comment, please?
Yes. Once again, about the security, what has been created with this design is a black hole. It will be very problematic to keep an eye on that little area between the sound wall for the residents, the barriers, and the street vegetation that will be there to block it off, and the driveway. That little spot right there is going to be a problem. Target will not be able to have eyes on it. And if there are not appropriate security cameras aimed in that area, that's going to be a serious problem. My question is, I see about 9 vehicles in this diagram. Very often during the holidays, and especially Starbucks that are associated with big box stores, they get a huge line during the holidays. What is the direction that the vehicles will go when they go beyond the guided drive area? Is there any kind of lineup or direction that is being kind of coaxing them away from the wall?
Yes, so the intent is that they would so actually if you go back to the other plan, and I can't annotate, so the intent is that they would line up along the parking stalls there, not
right here.
Yeah, right there. So they line up along here, and then they line up on this drive here. That's where the signage is. That's where the markings are.
And I saw the arrow there for the traffic. So they are actually going to go in front of the Target store?
No, that's the path to travel. That's not. So this is what I'm trying to say. There are markings on the ground here that are to be painted so that they'll stack along these end islands here, turn in, and then turn into the drive-through and then exit out.
Well, it is disconcerting that the electric vehicles charging will not be are not part of this property, because what that creates is more of a propensity of gas engines and gas vehicles idling and that close to the residents.
Thank you, Gwen. I'm going to read a comment that was put in the chat. It says, if Premier Parking is Target's concern for not building the marketplace in the southeast portion of the parking lot, they should consider remodeling Target's main entrance location to the center or west of the front building to accommodate construction in the southeastern location. So just wanted to read that comment that was put in our chat. I think Melanie has to be recognized next.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what you said about the security, Diana, and I really wanted to reiterate to Mr. Dietrich, I'm not sure how close he's worked with Kevin here with the Target store, or if he's just putting all Targets in a box and all with their security, what they all preliminary have. But the security here at this Target, they have told customers they do not have security cameras that cover the whole parking lot. They've told customers that have had their cars broken into, if you're in certain spots in the parking lot, there is no camera coverage there. One of the problems too is not having security at night, which we have witnessed and been part of, and I've got pictures to prove it and emails to Kevin, is that we have RVs that stay in the parking lot on a regular basis that park there and they don't get attended to. They spend the night and then maybe the next day they'll attend to them and make them leave. This is a problem because you get vagrancy constantly in that parking lot because there is no security in that parking lot at all. And adding 2 food businesses to it is going to increase that problematically 100%, because then you've got food, you've got a place to dig trash and all of that. It's a problem.
Thank you, Melanie. I think that's all of the, whoops, I think that someone just raised their hand.
Me,
Who's me? Rock
You're Richard.
Ashfield, Rock. What happened that you didn't get promoted earlier?
Diana, could you re-promote me? Because when I gave you host, it knocked me down to regular participant.
Oh, yes. Okay, let me do that while we're waiting for Rock to get redone so he can.
Okay, just real quick. Am I good?
Yeah, now you're good, Rock.
Okay, I've heard all the concerns. I know you guys all live there. I got in a little late, but I was gonna say one thing about with all this stuff happening in this huge parking lot, there's part of me that says if you had increased activity, that may diffuse some of that other activity. I don't know about the orientation and all that other kind of stuff in standing water. I just wanted to make that comment that maybe if you had increased commercial activity, instead of this dormant parking lot that people could go to, that actually might be a benefit. I just want to throw that idea out there, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Rock. With that, I think I'm going to close the comments and just.
Diana, I had
Ted has his hand up, and I've got mine up on.
Ted has his hand up and Pat has his hand up. Okay. Let's take Ted and then Pat.
Thank you, Diana. The first, I just wanted to address 2 comments. First, I appreciate Mr. Diedrich's honesty about the fact that the southeast corner was never considered. And obviously the page 2 drainage and the page 3 tunnel easement have nothing to do with the determination about where to put the Starbucks. That's important for me to know, and appreciate that. It does, again, that puts Target's concerns over the neighbors. I would point out that Target's customers seem to do just fine with the non-preferred parking during the holiday shopping season. The parking lot is jam-packed full, and that picks up also on the other non-seasonal winter holiday times when there's big sales and all the rest of it. With regard to security is a big issue. I don't think there's any way to get around it. What Target has now is utterly insufficient. I don't think anyone would really contend otherwise. Cameras can't possibly reach that corner. There is no security after hours. Security during hours is essentially non-existent. Cleanup is near non-existent, but less about the cleanup. If you look at fast food, Starbucks and convenience stores along the Gaffey corridor, they are magnets for vagrants, for panhandling, and for assaults and robberies. So the idea that you would put exactly that thing behind my wall seems outrageous to me. It seems to completely fly in the face of the facts on the ground. I would invite Mr. Diedrich and I would invite the team who is developing this property to visit those locations. 9th Street for 7-Eleven and Starbucks. I believe it's 5th Street for Starbucks. There's a couple of fast food places between 1st and 3rd. There is a 7-Eleven at 1st Street, and there's a 7-Eleven on the corner of Capitol. Ask those folks and check the crime reports for how they do there and what kind of problems vagrancy, panhandling, and and street level crime is at each of those locations. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed first and foremost, front and center. Thank you.
And Pat Nave, and you're the last comment.
Yeah, if you guys are wondering, Target and Habit and Starbucks people, Griffin and so on, are wondering why so many people stress security, it's because maybe it's because when we have our neighborhood council meetings and the police officers report on crime in our area, and then when we have our neighborhood watch meetings and the police come with their crime reports and maps and things like that, they keep talking about stuff that happens at Target. So, this is not coming from just hyperbole or fear or anything else. The other thing I wanted to say is, I look at this and I see this is Ted Mann was just talking about. I think this is going to be a teen and young person's hangout late at night with maybe some, I don't know, drag racing in the parking lot. Target's closed and the folks are going to be showing off their cars and sitting over in the corner there behind, over by the trash, stuff like that, sitting on their cars, drinking beer, maybe having coffee and a hamburger. But I think that's the kind of hangout this is going to be. I'm done.
Thank you. Mark, do you want to say any last words?
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for reviewing them. I think there were some good comments that we heard, and we'll go back and work with Griffin and Target to address those. Thank you for the comments on the brackish water, or to reach out to the landscape architect. He's going to be there tomorrow to take a look, and we'll get back to you on that.
Okay, and did John want to say anything before we close?
I appreciate hearing the comments. If I'm not getting the correct story, I will get down to the bottom of it. Target does take pride in our properties and in our being a good neighbor. So if there's work to be done, it will be done. And we will partner with Mark and his team, and we will look at the security issue top to bottom.
Well, we appreciate that. We appreciate your coming back and the changes that you did make and listening to our comments. We will be considering this at our next meeting in terms of where we want to go from here with it. So I thank you very much. With that, we will move on to our next item. So you feel free to leave or stay as you wish, John, Mark, and the rest of your group.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is a resolution regarding the speaking time at the Planning Commission meetings. And this was discussed at the last joint committee, and Alec is going to present it tonight. Alec Norman is going to present.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want me to share the screen for the motion, or
Why don't
do you have it?
Why don't
Okay.
you? I haven't learned how to share screen yet, Alec. You should know that. I'm going to be calling on you to teach me, however.
You can see it right now, right?
Yep.
Okay, so basically this is a motion that is in regards to the incident when a member of our joint planning and land use committee, those of you that don't know Robin, she's one of the members, and apparently she was cut off 3 minutes after presenting for 3 minutes at a development project that was being heard by the city planning commission. And apparently they gave extended time to the developers to present, but for her, they cut her 3-minute limit. So this is kind of in regards to saying that we want neighborhood councils to have more time to speak, because it's obviously going to be affecting us, and the developers are more focused on the profit and building the thing, where we are actually focusing on trying to see how this is going to impact us, and we want to have enough time to state everything fully.
So I'm going to take that as a motion from Alec. Is there a second to the motion?
A second.
Second was Chuck.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna add that the same thing happened when we were at the Planning Commission for Ponte Vista, and at that point Ray was our president, and they allowed him 2 minutes to speak, and you just can't present in that short period of time the arguments that need to be made. So I appreciate this motion. Does anyone else want to speak on it or have any questions on it?
Yes.
Raise your hand so I can see who's asking. 2 participants raised hands. Okay, let's see. Dan Dixon.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Oh, good. I just wondered in the last paragraph, it's asking for up to 1 additional minute to speak.
No, that's once when the time allowed is up to allow. rather than finishing the sentence, they didn't even let her finish the sentence.
Oh.
That's
So
what that
this is one additional minute up to, in addition to the additional time that's being asked for.
Yeah, maybe
That-
that needs to be clarified.
If it could be clear, and
Yeah,
and I understand the feeling about not specifying an amount of time. I assume some of this is up to the discretion of the chair of the meeting, but we need a guarantee that as elected representatives of the people working for the city, that we have a reasonable period of time to speak.
Yeah.
Nothing, we're not asking for much.
so we'll figure out how to wordsmith that to clarify that. Did you want to make
Thank
any? Okay,
Thank you.
Pat,
The Los Angeles City Charter, in Article 13 relating to neighborhood councils, provides that no city commission can make a decision without having reasonable time for input by neighborhood councils. So to put any time limit in here on neighborhood councils, I think is antithetical to what the city charter says. So, I might suggest adding something in a whereas clause, maybe in the first one, where it says promote city and participation in government, that we add in there that, I think it's section 908, I'm not sure exactly which section it is, provides that no council or no commission can make a decision without having input from the neighborhood councils as an item. And then in the resolved paragraph, which is the key paragraph.
hold on just a minute. Can you type that? If that's acceptable to you, Alec and Chuck, can you just type that in to the
Yeah.
motion? Good. So, whereas Article 13 of the city charter provides that no commission should make a
Shall
make a decision without, say the rest of it, Pat?
providing a reasonable opportunity for neighborhood councils to provide input. Yeah, semicolon. Okay, that'll do it.
Without providing, you want to put the word a, it's a reasonable opportunity, right? Or
Yeah.
a reasonable, I guess it's fine the way it is. Okay, and what's the other one, Pat?
Then in the resolution clause, I think it was it Dan that just talked about there shouldn't be any a reasonable extension of time. I don't think there should be a 3-minute limit personally in there. We get a reasonable amount of time to speak. I'm having a little trouble reading it and then coming up with what my objection to the limitation is in here. I think it's a good resolution. It's well done and stuff like that. I just think that I'd remove any time limit.
So maybe we ought to just end it where the comma is. Maybe it's on the neighborhood council requests that the city planning commission amend its rules to extend the time limit allowed for the relevant neighborhood council representative to speak on a project.
So
I
just
would-
delete this.
Well, that's the suggestion. Don't do
amend
it
its
yet.
rules. I would just take the amend its rules and then take out to extend the time limit allowed. Take that out.
Well, we want them, but
Well,
that's what we need them to increase the time limit allowed. That's what we really need to increase the time.
I don't think there's a time limit.
There
that,
is.
Well, I
There's a-
know there's a time limit. I don't think there should be one. You can have a 3-minute or.
Oh, so to increase the time allowed would do what you're
No.
saying.
No, I think that what I would be arguing for is that they recognize their obligations under the city charter and permit the neighborhood councils a reasonable amount of time to comment or to provide input before they make a decision. I don't think that we should, first of all, if you want to have a time limit, fine, put that on members of the public or whoever wants to just come in, but when a neighborhood council shows up to exercise their rights under the city charter, then that time limit goes out to out the door.
Yes, so how are you suggesting that paragraph be changed?
Take extend the time limit out to allow, make it, provides for rules to allow for the
Sufficient time, reasonable time, based on their own words, right?
No, I don't think it's a reasonable time. See, to allow for the relevant neighborhood council representatives to speak on a project. Yeah, and then that's all you need to say right there, period. Put a period after that. You don't need the rest of it because you don't need an extension if you're allowed a reasonable amount of time to talk on it.
I don't like reasonable, it should be sufficient.
Sufficient. All right.
Reasonable is a matter of judgment.
Yeah.
Sufficient is more direct.
So
Sufficient.
to
all
allow
right.
sufficient time for the relevant neighborhood council representative to speak on a project.
Yes.
What did the city charter say though? Did the city charter say reasonable or sufficient? I thought you mentioned.
It doesn't say either one. It just says, let me take a look.
I thought there was
You know
text
what?
that said that.
Yeah, let me look it up real quick.
Well, both of the charter says I like the word sufficient better than reasonable.
Yeah, me too.
I think we should use it.
There's not much reasonable in a city council.
This is going to be a little tricky tomorrow night, Alec, because you're going to have to say that we amended it, and you'll have to present it as amended.
Do we have to officially vote on the amendment or no?
Well, we have.
Somebody made a motion already, so yeah, the answer is yes.
Okay, then I have a motion to amend as is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Article 9, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment.
Article 9. Good thing you looked it up.
I'm looking at Article 9. Yeah, I'm looking at. Okay, early warning system, Section 907. The regulations shall establish procedures for receiving input from neighborhood councils prior to decisions by the city council committees and boards and commissions. The procedures shall include but need not be limited to notice to neighborhood councils as soon as practical and a reasonable opportunity to provide input before decisions are made. So it uses the word reasonable. Notices to be provided include matters to be considered by the city council committees and city boards or commissions.
So it's Article 9, Pat, instead of Article 13?
Article 9, Section 907.
Okay, do you want to put that in there? Article 9, Section 907?
I just would say Article 9 and make them go look it up.
Okay, Article 9. But do you want to change that, Alec?
Where would I put that?
Oh, wait, it says where the top whereas Article 13 should say Article 9 instead of 13.
Right.
9, okay.
My bad.
Yeah. Okay, and with that, Doug Eberhardt has his hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say that you mentioned you had 2 hands from participants. I was one of them. You called on Dan and ignored me. That's actually a violation of the Brown Act now because of AB 361. But I'm not going to complain.
I just did. Some reason I'm not.
I guess I did.
Some reason I'm not seeing things. Are you commenting on this?
Yes, I was
Okay.
actually.
Great.
I mean, you guys are going to have to do a better job of paying attention, I think. I would just point out, Coastal adopted a nearly identical motion last month. And we just eliminated that time limit thing at the end, pretty much for the same reasons you have. Because, you know, why would you limit neighborhood councils to 1 additional minute when it should be potentially 5 or 10? I just wanted you to know, we've already essentially passed this same motion.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was drafted by someone in Coastal. and presented at the joint committee. So shall we vote on it as amended? Or should we take a vote on the amendment and then come back and vote on the whole thing? I guess we should vote on it. Pat?
Well, you can probably do it either way. I was just where you withdraw the motion, make a motion on this as amended to save some time.
Yeah, let's do that. Alec, is that all right with you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And Chuck is the seconder. Is that all right with you?
Yes.
Okay. I do see two more hands over here. Make sure I've got. Rock, did you want to say something on this?
I'm not quite sure I do anymore. I do think there are people who are targeting developers sort of unfairly and very unspecifically that sort of make whatever time they have not exactly the correct thing to do. But that's all I'll say, and we can vote on whatever you want to vote on.
Well, those are non-neighborhood council people, right?
Well, it's debatable where they live and all this other kind of stuff. And so I find it all very questionable.
Alec, did you have your hand up?
Oh, do I? My bad.
No. Well, I'm having trouble because for some reason, I'm not seeing it correctly. Things are not showing up appropriately on my screen. Okay, so it doesn't seem to be my night for Zoom. Okay, with that, let's vote on the as amended motion. Jason?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Rock?
Abstain.
Alec?
Yes.
Jan? Oh, I think Jan had to leave. Dan?
Yes.
And Craig?
Abstain.
And Diana is a yes. Okay, motion carries. And you now have the corrected. Do you have that, Alec?
Oh yeah, I can send this to you after.
Can you send it to yourself and send it to me? So for tomorrow night?
Oh yeah,
I'd
okay, I can
like
do
to
that.
Point out, Craig Goldfarb and I abstain on the same thing. That's sort of amazing. So
That's true. Okay, so that's that. Then the next item was updates. And I had a couple that I wanted to give, if I can find where I put my notes.
Office while you're on TV.
The Western Avenue. Several people have asked about Western Avenue. You've probably noticed the incomplete construction at many of the intersections on Western Avenue. It's been there for like at least a couple of months now. This is an ADA ramp, curb and gutter, and electrical conduit replacement project for Caltrans, which is a state agency. And the contractor took out the concrete. They replaced the curb and gutter, but not the concrete, because they can't replace that yet because of the electrical conduit. They are missing. Thank you. They are missing some of the parts that they need to do that. And they say that the problem is supply chain issues due to COVID.
is that your lighting director there?
Yeah, I have a lighting director. So they say once they get the parts, they could complete it really quick, but they don't have any idea when they're going to get the parts. So the other thing on Western Avenue is the bicycle plan. I said to you today that they are going to be presenting the bicycle plan to the RPV City Council October 19th. And I also posted that on our website if you're interested in looking more at that or commenting on that. And then on Peck Park, I walked Peck Park with Ryan from the council office, and he is trying to set up something with the conservation corps to get them to clean the existing good diverters. So that hopefully will be one step in the right direction. We still have to worry about getting the other diverters replaced. The equipment rental site over there on Gaffey, Chuck and I met with Axel at the site, and Axel was also kind of surprised at what was there. and the fact that the council office knew nothing about it. And we pointed out what we thought might be violations of the CPIO. Axel sent a complaint to the Building and Safety Department. But unfortunately, Building and Safety is very backlogged and they still have not assigned anyone to investigate it. So this has been about a month now since he sent that request. But we will continue to follow up. But it does look like there may be some things we can get them to do, particularly in terms of some kind of landscaping in front of it, just based upon the CPIO. And Axel's not sure that they pulled the necessary permits. He thinks there's some question about that, which would be an even bigger deal if they didn't. The Road to Mary Star, Chuck.
Yeah,
So has it opened yet?
not open yet.
Not opened yet.
The speed humps have been put in place, but they're waiting for the painting of the speed humps and lighting. They need lighting also. So they're waiting for lighting. Once that's done, it will be opened.
Okay. That was it for the things I had. Any
Can
other?
Diana, can I ask a question about
Yeah.
West? First of all, the traffic there is awful. The traffic signs. We're at Binner. I guess I should know better. It's gotten better, but it's not as good. And that section between Binner and First,
Yeah.
on the north side, maybe the west side, there's the chicken farm, which I really like. But then next to it is a bunch of dilapidated trucks and all that other kind of stuff. Do we know anything about what's going on there?
No.
Okay, so
I'm wondering, Dan, do you know anything about it? Does anyone from the Issues Committee know anything about it?
Not specifically the dilapidated trucks, but we are talking to the council office, et cetera, about that situation, the F intersection at Weymouth and Western, for instance.
well, and they, by the way, Dan, they put up.
But really issues all the way from First to 9th. Yes.
Well, and then from 19th now they have a do not turn on right, which is ridiculous. And then they put one at Benner too. So it's like the access to get out to Western has been impeded, which means there's more traffic that goes through the neighborhood. So I don't understand why, if people are speeding down the street from Starbucks at 25th, that the people at 19th are impeded. By the way, there was a big wreck at 9th and Western today. So
my cohort and I from Issues will be taking a driving tour shortly, and we'll look at it that far down the street. Thank you.
All right, cool. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dan. And while we've got you, Dan, have we heard anything more about the DFSP?
No.
No.
No, it's the last nuanced answer I had was, it led me to believe that, well, I won't say anything because if I say something, it won't be true.
And you're being recorded.
Yeah, this is posterity now, posterity. I was slightly hopeful that there may be some relief from the answer that we get when it is decided, but the government flat out won't talk about negotiations with potential lessees. Seems like a kind of a black hole and not very transparent at all, but that's the situation. I am in touch with the PIO down there, and he's assured us that we will know when he knows.
Wow.
I'll keep after him. Thank you.
It's been a long time. Okay.
Well, he admitted, he said it's rare for something like this to go on this long, but as I say, I don't want to say any more than that I've said. I hope I can bring you some good news in the not too distant future.
Okay, any other updates or if not, we'll move to public comment.
Do you want to see your I have the updates put on a map. Do you want me to show that?
Yeah.
So I took the spreadsheet that Diana gave me and filled out and put all the updates on this map on Google Maps on the map mashup. So you can go in here, click on it, project name, address. You can click on a link if we have a Google Drive, like a PDF or whatever, to look at it. Some contact information for the people involved. So all the projects on this sheet are in here. We'll continue updating this and have these, some have more details than others.
Wow, that's cool, Jason. I hadn't seen it. That's a lot of work.
So where is this?
We're gonna have you show it at the joint meeting.
Where do you see this?
I just sent the link, email link to Diana to distribute.
Great. Fantastic.
And the more we fill out that sheet, more information, links, all the stuff we put in there, we can just get it right from here.
We
Wow.
put the leading real estate agency in there somewhere.
So we took all the things that I'd been reporting on at the joint committee and 3 different sheets that I was using and collapsed them into one. So that's great. Wonderful. Thank you, Jason. Anything else?
That's it.
Then let's go to public comment. Any public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none. And Doug, by the way, I had misanswered earlier. When you asked if the public comment was closed, I thought you were talking about a different item. We hadn't closed public comment on that one. So I probably would have recognized you sooner or later had I, anyway, that's beside the point. Okay.
Oh, Diana, I don't know if you would recognize me if I was walking down the street.
You're right, Doug. Ha ha ha. Yeah, okay. That's it. Okay, with that, the meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting for the joint committee is Wednesday, October 27th, and our next Northwest meeting